I used to be a wildland firefighter. Spent nearly 7 years doing remote response in Washington and Oregon. I've seen lightning strikes split trees in half, fires burn so hot they melt aluminum, and animals run straight into the flames because they're too scared to think straight. But nothing, and I mean nothing, shook me like what I experienced on the job up in the Willamette Forest in 2016. It was early August. We got deployed to a fast-moving blaze in a rugged section of the forest, known for steep terrain, thick pine, and zero cell signal. The kind of place where people disappear all the time, but no one really talks about it. This particular fire was being tricky. Unpredictable wind shifts, erratic growth. They sent our 4-man team to scout a section of the ridge and dig line to stop its advance near the north face. It was a 48-hour assignment, nothing crazy. But the second night, something started happening that none of us could explain. We were stationed about 3 miles from the fire front, camping out in a natural clearing between 2 steep slopes. Around 1 a.m., I woke up to the sound of screaming. Now, listen. Screaming in the woods is not unusual. Animals make god-awful noises. A cougar in heat can sound like a woman being murdered. Elk bugling at night can make your skin crawl. But this wasn't that. This was human. High-pitched, sharp, desperate. It sounded like a woman screaming for help, over and over. Please, help me. It's coming. That kind of thing. I sat straight up, heart pounding. My buddy Marcus was already unzipping his bag. You hear that? He asked. Yeah, I said. You think it's a hiker? He nodded, grabbed his headlamp and axe. I grabbed mine. We woke the other 2, Kelly and Ray, and the 4 of us started toward the direction of the noise. We didn't get far. Maybe 100 feet out from camp, the screaming stopped. Dead silence. No echo. No fade out. Just gone. Like someone hit mute on the forest. Then, out of nowhere, laughter. It wasn't right. It was hollow, robotic, like someone trying to mimic laughter without understanding what it was supposed to sound like. The hair stood up on the back of my neck. Kelly muttered, "What the actual f was that?" Ray, the skeptic of the group, tried to play it off. Probably a prank. Locals messing with us. We stood there for another few minutes before heading back. But something felt wrong. And I'm not the superstitious type, trust me. You can't be in this line of work. Back at camp, I sat up for a while with my axe in my lap, just watching the tree line. Nothing else happened that night. But in the morning, we found something. Right in the middle of our fire break, a shallow trench we dug just 12 hours earlier. There was a pile of rocks, neatly stacked, balanced, about 3 feet high. Nobody had made it. Nobody saw it the night before. And dead in the center of it was a tooth. Human, from what we could tell. Yellowed. Old, but very real. Ray lost all his tough guy attitude right there. Swore it wasn't funny. Said we were being watched. We called it into base, but didn't get a response until later in the day. They told us to stay put and wait for a crew swap. They'd be sending backup the next morning due to shifting fire conditions. So we had to stay one more night. None of us wanted to. We reinforced the fire line, moved camp closer to a boulder outcrop for cover, and kept all our gear on standby. That night was hell. Around 10 p.m., Marcus spotted something moving on the ridge above our site. He whispered, "You guys see that?" There was a silhouette, barely visible against the trees, but it wasn't standing on the ground. It was crouched in a tree, arms too long, legs curled up like an insect, just watching. Kelly aimed his flashlight up at it. The second the beam hit, it dropped from the branch. Not fell, dropped, like it was hanging the whole time, and disappeared into the darkness. We didn't sleep. We took shifts, back to back, with tools and headlamps ready. Around 3:30 a.m., the screaming started again. But this time, it wasn't asking for help. It was mocking us. The same phrases we'd used earlier. "Did you see that? You guys see that? Stay put," over and over, like it was playing a recording of our own words. Same voices, same tone. Then the whistling began. Slow, taunting, like a nursery rhyme played off-key. Kelly lost it. He stood up and yelled into the woods. "You think this is funny? Come on then." We tried to calm him down, but by then the woods had gone dead silent again. The fire line glowed in the distance. Ash was falling like snow. And that smell. You never forget the smell of burning pine and fear. Eventually morning came. When the relief crew arrived, we packed up like our lives depended on it. And maybe they did. Before we left, Marcus went to take one last leak near the edge of the camp. He came back pale, holding something in his hand. It was another tooth. This one was newer, pink on the root, fresh. We gave it to the crew boss, told him everything. He just stared at us, mouth tight. Said we'd been exposed to too much stress, maybe even smoke inhalation. Told us to get some rest and report to base medical when we got back. None of us ever got a follow-up. 3 weeks later, I tried calling Marcus. His number was disconnected. Kelly moved to Arizona, left firefighting altogether. Ray? He drinks now. A lot. Told me he keeps seeing something outside his window at night. But every time he turns on the light, it's gone. Me? I quit the job that fall. Told everyone it was about family and settling down. But the truth is, I can't look at a timberline the same anymore. I can't walk into the woods without flinching at every sound. I haven't been camping once since then, not even car camping. And some nights, usually around 3 a.m., I wake up hearing that same screaming. Only this time, it's not from the woods, it's inside my house. Brace yourself, because I don't know what I saw that night in the ridge. And honestly, I'm not even sure I was supposed to walk out of there alive. I used to do a lot of backwoods hiking in northern Idaho, not the kind with trails and campsites and friendly rangers handing out trail maps. I mean real wilderness, where if something happens to you, there's no cell signal, no one around for miles, and no one even expecting you back on time. I liked that feeling, that isolation. It made the world feel quieter. Back in 2020, I took a week off from work, just needed to get away from everything. I'd broken up with my girlfriend, my mom was going through chemo, and my job in Boise was grinding me down. So I grabbed my gear, my pack, and headed out toward a place I'd only read about on forums. Bear Rock Ridge. People talked about it like it was some kind of rite of passage for solo hikers. Remote, scenic, and deeply unnerving. That last part should have been a red flag, but I was too burned out to care. I parked at a small pull-off about 5 miles off the last paved road. No real trail markers, just a game path that led into thick pine. From there, I followed my compass, a topo map, and instinct. My plan was to set up camp by a stream I'd seen on satellite, just below Bear Rock Ridge itself. The first night was peaceful. The air was cold and clean, and the wind had this low, humming whistle as it moved through the trees. I set up camp in a small clearing beside a ridgeline, made a fire, and cooked some instant noodles. That night, I slept like a log. The weird stuff started the second night. Around 2 a.m., I woke up suddenly, not to a noise, but to absolute silence. And I mean that literally. No wind, no rustling trees, no bugs. Just pure, unnatural silence. I've camped in all kinds of terrain and weather, and I've heard silence before. But this? This felt like the sound had been sucked out of the forest. I sat up in my tent, holding my breath, listening. And then I heard it. 3 sharp taps. Not like branches snapping or rocks falling, more like someone knocking. Slow and deliberate. Tap, tap, tap. It came from somewhere to the left of my tent, maybe 50 feet out. I stayed frozen for a minute, then slowly reached for my flashlight and unzipped the tent flap just enough to peek out. I didn't see anything, just black shapes of trees. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, I chalked it up to maybe a falling branch or some weird animal behavior. I had half a mind to pack up and leave, but something in me, probably pride, told me to stay. I moved camp slightly downhill toward the creek, figuring it'd be safer closer to running water. That day passed normally. I even managed to relax a bit. But that night is burned into my memory forever. I had just started to doze off when I heard footsteps. Not animal footsteps. I know the difference. These were bipedal, slow, and heavy. Crunch, crunch, crunch. They stopped about 20 feet from my tent. I sat up, rifle in hand, heart racing. I didn't call out. I didn't move. Whoever was out there didn't either. Then came the whistling. It was soft, low, a tune I didn't recognize. Just 2 or 3 notes repeated, like someone who wasn't quite sure how to whistle but was trying anyway. I don't scare easy, but I've never been more terrified in my life. My mouth went completely dry. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. All I could do was stare at the thin fabric between me and whatever was out there. Then it started to circle the tent, not in a rush, slowly, dragging its feet, still whistling that same broken tune. I sat like that for what must have been an hour, shaking and gripping my rifle so tightly my knuckles were white. Eventually, the sound faded. The footsteps grew softer. The whistling stopped. I didn't move until daylight. When I finally stepped out, the area around my tent was covered in footprints, bare feet. Long, narrow, with toes that dug deep into the dirt like claws. No human I've ever seen walks like that. No human I've ever seen has feet that long. I packed up camp in under 10 minutes. I didn't even eat breakfast. Just stuffed my gear in my bag and started back toward my car. But it wasn't that easy, because something was following me. I never saw it. But every time I stopped, I could hear it too. Stopping. At one point, I climbed up on a rock ledge to get my bearings and try to shake this thing off. I turned to look back down the trail I'd just walked, and I swear to God, something ducked behind a tree just before I saw it. Not ran, not panicked. Ducked. Like it was playing. I didn't wait around. I sprinted the rest of the way to the car, completely out of breath and soaked in sweat. I didn't stop until I was halfway down the highway, speeding back toward civilization. I told a ranger about it a few days later. He looked uncomfortable. Told me that Bear Rock Ridge had a reputation, and that most people who hiked that deep never came back with a clear head. One guy went missing for 3 days and came out barefoot, with a dislocated jaw and blood under his fingernails. Said he'd been talking to a tall man in the woods. I haven't been hiking since. I still wake up sometimes thinking I hear that whistling. Sometimes, when I walk to my truck in the early morning, I swear I hear footsteps behind me, just far enough away that I can't see who they belong to. If you ever get the urge to hike Bear Rock Ridge, don't. Just don't. If you've ever done a solo winter camp in Montana, you know it's not something to take lightly. But I wasn't just any camper. I'd been doing this kind of thing for over a decade. Cold weather gear, fire starting in snow, backcountry navigation, all second nature to me. This wasn't something I stumbled into for Instagram. It was just what I did to feel human. So when I took a trip out to the Swan Range in late January last year, I didn't think twice. I wanted solitude, snow, and silence. I got all three. And something else. I packed in from a remote trailhead northeast of Seeley Lake, a spot that's mostly known to locals and a few old Forest Service guys. I was planning on spending 3 nights out near a timberline I'd camped at before. That stretch of elevation gives you a sweeping view over the valley, and if the weather's clear, you can see all the way to the Mission Mountains. It was supposed to be beautiful. And at first, it was. The first day went smooth. I snowshoed up the trail, made camp in a shallow bowl by a stand of firs, and set up a fire ring. My tent was snug. My gear was solid. The air up there, it smelled like pine, cold sap, and peace. The trouble started late that first night. I'd been asleep for maybe 2 hours when I woke up to a strange sound. At first I thought it was wind catching the side of my tent, but then I realized it was rhythmic. A low, dragging noise, followed by a soft, quick thump. It sounded like something being pulled across the snow, and then dropped. I froze in my sleeping bag, heart already hammering. I reached for the hunting knife I keep beside me when I camp solo. Then I grabbed the flashlight and clicked it on. Low beam. Nothing. Just the walls of my tent and the faint sound still coming from outside. I waited. Eventually, it stopped. In the morning, I stepped outside to inspect. The snow around my tent had been disturbed. There was a long drag line, almost like someone had pulled a log across the snow, except there were no footprints. None. I stared at it for a long time, confused. Thought maybe it was a deer or elk, but again, no hoofprints, no scat. Just that long, curved indent, and then nothing. I brushed it off and hiked to a nearby ridge to watch the sunset. It cleared my head for a bit. That night, I lit a fire, sat with some freeze-dried chili, read a paperback by headlamp, normal stuff. Then around midnight, I heard breathing. Not like a bear's deep huff, not like the high panting of a coyote. This was slow, deliberate. Inhale, pause, exhale. It was coming from behind my tent. I turned my head slowly and waited, muscles locked. I didn't move for a solid 5 minutes. The breathing never got closer, never retreated. It just stayed steady, like whatever it was knew I was awake and didn't care. Then, like a switch, it stopped. No rustle, no retreating steps, just gone. I got maybe 3 hours of broken sleep that night. The next morning, I found something at the edge of my camp, a stick figure, made of twigs, held together with frozen sinew or tendon. And not just any stick figure. This thing had little arms bent backwards, like it had been broken. The head was tied with a tuft of what I swear was animal fur, or maybe even human hair. I know how that sounds. But I'm telling you, it was dark, greasy, and tangled. Not from a deer. I've seen all sorts of weird ritual stuff in the woods over the years, mostly from backwoods cults or bored teens. But this felt different. Older. Intentional. Close. I should have left then, but I didn't. That afternoon, I moved camp slightly downslope, closer to the tree line. I wanted to feel like I was hiding, even though I told myself I was just getting a better windbreak. That night, everything changed. It started with the breathing again. Then came the voices. Low, garbled, like someone was trying to speak English, but didn't understand the words. Mumbled phrases, almost playful, almost mocking. I zipped my tent up so tight it was pulling the seams. I didn't make a sound. Then I heard the most terrifying thing I've ever experienced. My own voice. Something outside repeated a sentence I'd said earlier that day, while setting up my second camp. Word for word. I'd muttered to myself, "Let's hope this spot's warmer." And now, outside my tent, I heard it repeated back in a scratchy, broken whisper. "Let's hope this spot's warmer." I stopped breathing. I couldn't believe it. My mouth went dry, my fingers numb. Every hair on my body stood up. Then came the laughter. Software raspy. Choking. Like something trying to remember how to sound human. I don't know how I survived the night. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. I just lay there with my knife in one hand, bear spray in the other, listening. Listening to the slow drag outside the tent, the crunch of feet that left no prints, the guttural clicks and hums that didn't belong in any language I know. By dawn, it was gone. I didn't pack my gear. I didn't eat. I just grabbed the essentials, left my tent, and started hiking down. I've never moved that fast on snowshoes in my life, but the worst part, I wasn't alone on the trail. At 3 different points during my descent, I saw it. Not directly, but enough to know it was there. A shape, maybe 6 feet tall, crouched between trees just off the trail, perfectly still, watching. And every time I looked straight at it, it was gone. I finally reached my car around 2 p.m. My gear was still there. Nothing touched. I drove straight to a ranger station, pale, shaking, probably looking like a lunatic. The ranger listened politely, told me I was probably overtired, maybe imagined some of it. But when I told him about the stick figure and the voice outside my tent, he went quiet. Then he said something I'll never forget. That part of the Swan Range has old stories tied to it. Tribes wouldn't go near that timberline after the first frost. Said it was where the Mimic Ones walked. Mimic Ones. I don't know what I encountered. But it's been a year. I haven't been back, and I won't. Because sometimes, the forest doesn't just watch you. Sometimes it talks back. If you enjoyed these stories, please take a moment to subscribe the channel. Your support matters a lot.